Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us today on ClueCon Weekly. Today our guest is Gavin Henry, founder of SureVoIP, and he is here to discuss the latest goings on at SureVoIP and how SureVoIP Notify, SureVoIP Mobile, and the new SureVoIP Talk app is coming along. So hey Gavin, how you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So excited to have you. So I know you have some slides you want to share with us, so let's go ahead and get into that.
So just a bit of history of a bit about me, what services we provide, our network diagram, and then we'll dig into the apps that we've done this year. Um, so I'm getting a bit old now. I'm 41, married, have a beautiful wife and a little boy. Well, he's not so little now, he's 15. As you can see, he's in a wheelchair there, so Ben's disabled and helps sort of drive everything we do in a roundabout way. I got into this business in 2005 and then sort of created SureVoIP in 2009. So I think this month it will be 10 years, going from renting things to co-locating things to then becoming a full network operator slash ITSP in 2014. So this is our 5th year anniversary this year. And now we're a full-blown UK telco. My love is software engineering, open source software. And at the beginning of this year, I became a podcast host on software engineering radio. So I do 5 shows a year, pick some guests and sort of pick the ones that I want to learn some things about, and also that's good for the community and the software engineering world. Um, so what do we do? So usual suspects when you're an ITSP, we do hosted VoIP, hosted PBX, SIP trunks, numbers that you can use across the internet. We also do just a handful of customers for on-site PBX support for the bigger guys. Because we run our own network, we do broadband and leased lines slash Ethernet services to bring their VoIP straight into our network. And we provision hardware on site as well. So our network is in 2 locations in the UK. We've got a core point of presence in Edinburgh and one in London, connected to every peering exchange to keep the links as quick and as fast and low latency as possible, connected into all the peering exchanges. So when someone does make a call, we can be in the path and have as much control as we possibly can. So that's been the sort of journey for the past sort of 5 years, and that's probably as high as we can go in the UK without having some more markers on that map. That gives us geographic resilience and basically as independent as we can get. Hopefully we'll be looking into expanding to Europe and potentially the States over the next 5 years, I'd say. But in the UK, we run a very high quality network. So we're shifting focus onto the software side of things that maybe if we start again today, we would do that first, but we're here now. So what I've been looking at lately is to get some of our own mobile apps. I've looked at outsourcing it, and then I was referred to the Google framework called Flutter, which I'll touch on shortly. That's a framework that allows you to write one set of code which gets compiled down to a native app on iOS, Android. It'll spit out a web version and a desktop version as well. So you can have one code base and then deploy it on any type of sort of device. It's been working really well. So it uses a back-end programming language called Dart, which is similar to JavaScript if you used JavaScript and TypeScript. Very fast, very quick, very easy to understand, and a joy to work with. So we came up with our product called SureVoIP Mobile, which you mentioned, which is fundamentally a SIM card that you pop into your phone, but it allows your phone to roam onto any network, pretty much anywhere in the world. So in the UK, that works on 3 or 4 of the main carriers. In the States, it would be AT&T, Sprint, and T-Mobile, but I think a couple of those are merged now. And we wanted to basically offer something different, but also be in full control of your account and your bundles. So we look towards the open source project called CG Rates, and you've had Dan on the show a couple of times now, I think. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a few things that we sponsored in CG Rates, a few feature requests we got in. So basically, when you put that SIM card in your phone and try to send a text or receive a text or make a call, receive a call or use data, the mobile virtual enabler that we use queries our API, which is CG Rates, in real time to say yes or no, Madison can do that. Yes, she has enough in her bundle, etc. So when you receive a call, their system queries our API to say, yes, you have enough money, because you might be roaming on a network where you pay for the call. If it's outside of the UK, you may have that network in your bundle or not. So basically, when someone calls your number, we get heads up before that phone even rings, usually around 7 seconds as per the GSM spec. But because we supply SIP numbers, we can give you as many numbers as you want on that SIM card. But the problem that we kept coming up against with customers is that they didn't know which number was dialed to reach them on their mobile. And I haven't seen a solution like this in the market. So we decided to come up with a way to give you a heads up that not only a call's coming, but what number they dialed, so you can choose to either accept that call or put it into a time condition to say yes or no, basically like a SIP device or a soft phone. So picked a boring name called SureVoIP Notify. And the basic feature is you get a push notification to say the call's coming, and it will show whatever you put in to the portal or the app that you want presented, so you can make a decision whether to answer that call. So the example on the App Store here, this is the Apple App Store. So if you were to search SureVoIP on there, you'll be able to see this. And it'll just do a push notification, like I said, around 7 seconds before to say, heads up, there's a call coming to your work number or whatever you've asked to be presented there. And that was the basic feature, to go through the whole process to see what it was like to use Flutter, what it was like to develop in it, create tests, do continuous integration, to deploy it onto the app stores, to go through the app approval process before we did anything a bit meatier, like a soft phone. So even though it's just a push notification, there's quite a lot behind the scenes, which is why I wanted to sort of use this as the example for the chat. So Flutter, like I said, you write it in one type of code. You can reach down to write something specific to hook into Android or iOS. But there's a ton of modules and plugins to do everything you need, from push notifications to saving things on the phone to Google authentication. You name it, it's pretty much there. There's a good developer ecosystem around it if there's something missing. So we opted to use the Firebase cloud messaging for push. So you create a project on there, download a bit of JSON, stick it in your app, and then it works on iPhones, iPads, and Android devices and tablets. So it was really slick. I managed to do that, and I wrote this myself. And in about 24 hours, the basic feature of push message was working, but then you've got all the stuff around that to make it work sort of seamlessly for a customer or a user. So what you would do, because our API and some of the authentication stuff's not there yet for what you call OAuth 2, so your usual flow there where you'd click get authorize GitHub to access your account and similar, and then you approve app access to your account. We just opted just to get the proof of concept out there, where you'd log onto our portal, use your device to scan a QR code, and then that would authorize access to your account for this app. So how that works is you download the app, go into your settings of the portal, you take a picture of the QR code, which we all know is just a block of squares, and embedded in that is JavaScript web token, which is which is created by the portal, so it's signed by the portal. The SureVoIP Notify app scans that, validates that it's a Java web script token, and then sends that onwards to our API. So what that means is the portal has generated it, embedded it in the QR code image. There's a shared secret between the portal and the API, so it's signed by the portal. The app then pushes that into the API. The API checks the signature is correct and a few other things, checks that it was meant to receive it. If it all looks correct and validates and hasn't expired, plus a few other checks, it will then add it onto your user profile. It will pull out some metadata about your device so you can recognize it on the portal. Like it would say Gavin's iPhone or your Android phone's name, and it would save the unique token that Firebase issues. So every time you install an app and it uses Firebase, it gets a unique ID globally, so we can know that that's your phone, and if a message gets sent, it only goes to that phone. So that's the sort of setup dance. It's very simple. Take a picture, validates, and then the token gets saved on your account. Every account on most things we do go into an Open LDAP directory server. And that's your setup complete. So when you look at the picture here, you're basically just following that little wizard, scanning the picture, and you're done. It saves that token on the local devices storage, which is generally called shared preferences, which is a key value store. When the app switches on, it just checks out there's something in there. If it's not, it presents the setup screen again, so you can click reset and do it anytime your device changes. We will look to have multiple devices, so you could have like a broadcast for that message. So it could broadcast through your browser, the desktop app, etc. That's pretty much the app. The journey was extremely enjoyable to get it improved with Google Play Store. They pretty much just wanted some screenshots and off you go, a bit of beta testing. Apple was slightly different. They wanted a lot of things. They wanted a video to show the app worked. They wanted screenshots on the biggest screen of iPad and iPhones. So even though you're deploying a free app, you've got to buy into getting a MacBook because you've got to compile on a MacBook. You've got to have a real iPhone because push messages only work on a real device. But they wanted the screenshot on the iPhone Maxes, which is very expensive, and they wanted the biggest iPad. So there's quite a big investment just to get a free app on there. But a few tips for people doing it. Flutter and most frameworks have what you call local push messages. So you can generate a push drop-down notification by just clicking a button, because the simulators for these devices don't connect to Firebase at all because it's a simulator. So what you can do is quickly push a button or generate the message, take a screenshot, and then do that across all the high-resolution devices, and then use that for your screenshots rather than investing in all the devices that Apple want. Whereas we opted just to use a slightly older iPhone 8. So if it's fast on that, it's going to be fast on the latest iPhone 11, etc. I actually pulled out of my bedside drawer an old iPhone 4S, which has iOS 9 on it, and Flutter works on iOS 8. So I thought, I'll give that a shot. So I went onto the App Store, installed it. Slightly sluggish, but it all worked, and push notifications came in. So it's a good framework to use because you can go right back to older devices that work. So how it actually works behind the scenes is once you're set up, we've then got your Firebase Cloud messaging token saved on your LDAP profile, so we know who you are and how to reach you. And this is how a lot of push notifications work for soft phones as well. So the call comes in, you've set up to receive notifications, CG rates authorize the call. It then sends that event to our API. We then go and validate it, go and look up that you've got a token on your account and you've subscribed to notifications. And then we look up what text you want to appear, and off we go. And that all happens, I think Firebase's SLA is within 200 milliseconds. We then go and off and look. So within the normal latency for a phone call, you'll get a push notification, and then the whole process of ringing your phone will start on the GSM network. So you should get, if you've got a data connection or Wi-Fi, something around 5 to 7 seconds before your phone rings, so you can make a decision to accept that call. Obviously, you'd want to click a button to say yes or no, but you can just hang up at the moment until we get more user requests, rather than create a big app that has tons of features. So that all lives in, your token lives on OpenLDAP. We use a standard QR code, which seems to be what everyone else does for a slick sign up, and a standard, what you call a JOT, a JWT token, which has a short expiry, and that's you. So we're looking to expand that to do more things, but the whole process took around 16 weeks, so 4 months back and forth, even though the proof of concept took 2 working days to get that message, to figure out if that was the right way to do it. And that's been really enjoyable, really validated the choice in Flutter. There's lots of things coming with Flutter, so I'd highly recommend that framework for someone that, or anyone that wants to write some code once and have it work across all devices. Apple and Android are doing their own sort of high-level framework. I think Apple's is Swift UE, and Android's is something components, I think. It's still in beta, so it's not really ready, but Flutter is now a couple of years old. So that's pretty much SureVoIP Notify. But the goal has always been to create our own soft phone. We sell Counterpath Bria at the moment, which is good. It has a provisioning system that we use, but it's very hard, to add any other things to it, like seeing your invoices or anything like that. So that brings us on to SureVoIP Talk. So these are our registered trademarks. The Talk one's at the bottom, which is the T for Talk, but it's got a nice little chat symbol embedded in it. So the bigger one and the little one inside, so it's nice and simple to understand. They both look really good on devices. So that takes us on to how we are building, and we're going to complete SureVoIP Talk. So on Flutter already, it's not as mature as, say, React Native for the whole WebRTC ecosystem. There is a company called Cloud WebRTC based in China that have developed a full WebRTC experience, which is really nice. So you can download that, it's open source, and use that for video and voice. But because we're an ITSP, we obviously have we have a SIP infrastructure there. So we were looking to use that for the signaling portion of WebRTC, but there isn't anything there at the moment. So in our portal, we use JS SIP, which has been around for a long time, very stable and feature-rich for web browsers. But because Dart is very similar to JavaScript, it maps quite nicely to use that as a base to reference and develop a Dart framework around that. So I was like, you know what, rather than us do some sort of proprietary thing, let's just make it open source and port the whole lot to Dart. And that's what we did. We sponsored the project. It's open source. Anyone can join it and download it and run the example on your device. Within 5 minutes, you can have a fairly generic app on your phone that you can click register. It will connect to the JS SIP demo. You click call on a URL, and you can have a full video and audio call, and it's brilliant. So the first version of that's out. There's a bit more to do with regards to provisioning it over a push notification. But if you want to jump onto that URL there and have a play, We've already had someone join the project from Australia, testing it out and fixing bugs for Asterix. So you can use it as an internal SIP soft phone, but we're going to use it to connect into our WebRTC infrastructure, do video, audio, and then add instant messaging, and bring in the rest of our tool set around it, which is like your invoices, text messaging, have it nicely branded, but because the core of it's open source, it should live on beyond anything we do or have features contribute to it that we haven't imagined. So yeah, get into Flutter, have a go, fork the project or join it, download it with your MacBook infrastructure, download Android or the Flutter thing on there, or Windows and Linux, and have a go. And that's where we're going to create the SureVoIP Talk app, so it can be nice and slick. And that code base will bring a user or another developer something that works on Android, iOS, a web app, or a desktop app that works on Mac, Windows, and Linux. The desktop part of Flutter is quite new. It's kind of a wrapper, just like Electron, but what I've seen is really positive, and that means we will have a nice branded app for every platform out there, rather than just taking an off-the-shelf thing that works like Brier, but it's closed source. We can't iterate on it as quickly as we could with this. And Flutter has the most amazing documentation and developer ecosystem experience. It integrates with a tool called Fastlane, so you can literally just commit your code into GitHub. It'll integrate with Cirrus CI, I think it's called, run all your tests, and then deploy it straight to Fastlane. Sorry, it'll use Fastlane to deploy it straight to the beta testing of iOS or Android, so Google Play or TestFlight on the App Store, and off you go. It's just so feature rich and further along than what it would be if we did this natively. Highly recommend it. So yeah, that's where we are this year. Apart from our developer portal, next year should be very, very exciting for delivering features quickly and responding to user requests.
This is awesome, Gavin. I'm really looking forward to giving this a try. And I'll also go ahead and share that link in the video description so that everybody else can just, copy and paste it and get going on that. I love the apps. They're great. I'm really looking forward to seeing what else comes out of that brain of yours.
Well, I specialize in capitalizing on what other people do and sticking it all together,
Yeah.
But this is one of the few things that I've recognized wasn't there, and opted just to sponsor it, really. There's some amazing talent out there. There's always someone better than you or a team better, and rather than try and compete, it's better with this low-level thing to make it open source like you guys did with FreeSwitch from the start, because you never know what people are going to think up, and the level of testing they do in environments that you can't imagine just make it more stable and bomb-proof,
Yeah, I love the collaboration that you get across everything. It's wonderful and super, super interesting to see what comes out,
Thanks.
Well, Gavin, thank you so much for coming on today. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience before we close?
No, just don't be scared to give things a go, and roll your sleeves up, and if it's not there, create it, make it open source, because that gives you puts you in a whole different mindset, because someone's looking at your code. Just the same analogy when you invite someone around to your house, it's going to be made tidy and spick and span because you've got guests, and that's a good way to operate with your code, because with open source, it's all there, it's naked, so it puts you in a different mindset for how you write it, and all the tool sets around this type of thing, especially being on GitHub, you just get so much out of the box, and that's one of the reasons that you moved the FreeSwitch code base to GitHub, I presume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Gavin.
No problem. I look forward to getting some contributors.
Yeah, guys, everybody go ahead and check that out. And if you have any questions for Gavin, you can always leave them in the comments section on the YouTube or the Facebook pages, wherever this video is. And we can get those over to Gavin and he can help you out with those.
Thank you, Madison.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Gavin. And we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for watching ClueCon Weekly.
Don't forget to give this video a like and a subscribe, and while you're at it, make sure to go and follow all of our other social media channels.
We'll see you right here next week, same time, same place. And catch you at ClueCon.